Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sonnet, the owner and creator behind Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and if you saw Friday's video, then you will know today is a thrift to treasure. So I am taking 5 items that I thrifted on Friday and we are flipping them in today's video. I can't wait to hear what you guys all think. Well, I was out thrifting on Friday. I picked up all these goodies, and many of you might think, why in the heck would you pick up these items? Honestly, I truly saw the beauty in each one of these, and I cannot wait to show you how I flip them in today's video. For project 1, I found this tray, and what caught my eye right away was this detail right around the edges, guys. Oh, it was so beautiful. I love the handles, and really I probably could have sold as is, but I decided to do something to the top of it. So right away I realized I had to take the handles off, and I went out into the garage because I thought I needed a screwdriver. Well, a screwdriver was not going to work. I needed a type of like ratchet, but none of my ratchets would fit into these holes, and I definitely needed to get off the actual handles in order to make this flip as easy as possible. So I did get out a needle nose pliers, and it fit in there perfect, and I unscrewed each of these little nuts, and it was pretty easy to do that, just a little bit more time consuming than taking my screwdriver or my screw gun and unscrewing it. Here I'm using wood crate trolley. It's a Roycycled decoupage paper, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I have been dying to use this paper, and this is the perfect project to use it on. First and foremost, anytime I am using decoupage paper, I have said this in the past, I always start with a white base. You absolutely do not have to do this, but what it does is it really makes your paper pop. So all the beautiful detail that Royce puts into creating really pops with a white base. I'm applying 2 even coats of White Swan DIY paint, and in today's video, all the products that I'm using in all the flips you can find out on my website at www.sonnetsgardenblooms.com. So that way, if you want to replicate any of these or try a project of your own, you can find all the products there. Now that I have the paper cut down to size, I always leave a little bit of extra paper on all the edges. I am breaking out liquid patina from DIY, and that is by far my favorite decoupage medium to use with the Roycycled paper. What I always do to prevent wrinkles is I do use a starter strip. So I lay 1 even strip of the liquid patina, and then I smooth out the decoupage paper, and then I work my way down. And this really helps prevent wrinkles and any major issues when you're laying down your paper. So your starter strip gets everything lined up. You flip the paper back, and then you just work your way down, and it goes on like butter. Next, I let the whole entire project completely dry. Then I either take a little sanding block or whatever type of sandpaper that you have available, and in a downward motion, you want to remove the excess. So when I showed you at the beginning how it had that really cool detail around the edge, that is where I am trying to sand down on that. A couple of the edges, I actually decoupaged. It actually glued all the paper down. So I actually had to like sand back and forth a bit, and it caused a little bit of the white paint to show through. So I came up with a solution in the end how to blend all of that. I tried to sand more, and you could still see a little bit of the white paint, which was really bothering me. So wait till you see what my solution was there. There were just a few small areas that had not completely decoupaged down, so I just lifted up one of the corners and a little bit more of the liquid patina and then smoothed it out. And I went around all of the sides, and again, I just applied a little bit more of the liquid patina. I also went across the entire piece and completely sealed it a second time as well. Now that it's completely dry, I'm just taking an end of a paintbrush, reopening up those holes, and then we're going to reinstall the handles. And it's really as simple as fitting them right back in, flipping it over, and then using that needle nose pliers and screwing on that little lug nut again. And really an easy and simple fix. It would have been so much more difficult if I had left the handles on versus taking them off. Like I mentioned earlier, the edges were really bothering me, so I did break out DIY's dark wax and a waxing brush, and I started waxing the edges. So not only did that little bit of white popping out bother me, but as I was looking at this board, I'm like, the edges look brand new. The center looks like it's a crate that's been underwater, and I wanted it to look aged and old, and the dark wax was the perfect solution. There were also a few spots on the actual paper that a little bit of the white kind of was popping through. I don't know why, but I just took that waxing brush and I kind of brushed over the paper, blended it with my napkin, and you would never notice any of it. The white or the dark wax just made that white just blend perfectly, and really with this aged paper, it worked perfect. For project 2, anytime I find a crate, I am grabbing it. Whether it's little, big, crates are a perfect asset to your booths. And everybody loves decorating with crates. So one thing that I mentioned in a couple of my last videos is I have a lot of items, DIY products that I started using, and I am trying to use and finish them up. So here is the transfer set called Brocante, and this is a perfect transfer to go on the front of this crate. The other thing I've mentioned is I have been dying to use Blue Hills from DIY Paint. It is one of the new cottage colors that both Jamie Ray Vintage and Debbie Beard have created, and I absolutely love it. I've used crockery, and I have also used the Americana on a couple projects, and it was a perfect opportunity for me to break out the Blue Hills. So you may know that the typical DIY paint is a clay-based paint. The one-step paint is a top coat built right in, so no need to seal it after you apply the paint. Now that it's dry, it's time to apply the transfer, and transfers are such an easy way to just totally transform your item. Now here I'm just peeling off that backing, laying the transfer down, and using the transfer stick that comes with the transfer itself, and you just start rubbing on one end, and I always just slightly pick up that corner, start rubbing, and the transfer comes right off, and it really is that simple. This is, like I said, a transfer from the Brocante set, and that actual transfer kit comes with so many different transfers, so there's so many projects that you can transform with this one transfer. I thought this looked just too perfect, and you guys know how much I love things that are distressed and aged and looked all chippy. So I am just taking my piece of sandpaper and randomly sanding on all the raised edges here and there, just to make that little bit of wood still pop through. Now, I did say you do not need to seal your cottage color, but anytime you apply a transfer, it is highly recommended that you do seal it to completely seal it into your project. So I am using DIY's Big Top, and I am applying a nice even layer of Big Top to the transfer. Let it dry, and this transformation is complete. For project 3, I did find these two little bowls, and anytime I find wood bowls, I'm always grabbing them. I love wood platters, just anything wood goes over really well. In the past, what I've done with my wood bowls or wood platters is I have used the DIY paint and I paint them. And I do this with multiple colors. And like I said, they sell almost immediately. So today I am using Apothecary from DIY Paint, and I am applying one even coat of the paint to both the inside of the bowl and the bottom of it. Now that the bowls are completely dry, I am taking a damp piece of paper towel and I am just going to distress them to bring back a little bit of that wood around the edge on the inside. I flip the bowl over. I even do the outside of the bowl, and where there's like a little bit of a lip for the bottom, I just want it completely distressed all over so it looks really finished. Now, I talked about how I have bits and chunks of transfers left over in a pile, and I'm trying to use them up, and here is another one, and this one is so fun looking. I love how that red is going to pop off of the Apothecary. What I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this into two. So we're gonna put a chunk into each of the bowls, and then what I finally decide to do is also use those two green leaves, and I'm going to apply a little chunk of each one in the bowls as well. It is a little bit more difficult to put a transfer down on either a round surface or like an indented surface like this. What I just recommend doing is starting on one side and work your way over to the other without applying the full transfer. So whatever side you're working on, I just start over there. I start trying to rub that area, get the transfer off, and then just work my way around the entire inside of the bowl. The one thing I love too about the IOD transfers is that you can layer them, and that's exactly what I did with those green leaves. Is I cut them up, yes, and you can cut them up and position them however you want. So don't think when you get that transfer sheet that you have to lay it down as is. You can cut it apart, piece it however you would like, and again, you can layer your transfers to give it dimension and just a different look. And that's exactly what I'm doing here in these little bowls. Now that it's completely done, I am going to seal not only the transfer, but the DIY paint. Anytime you're using the DIY clay style paint, you do need to seal it, otherwise it can be reactivated with water. So I'm using DIY's Big Top, and I'm just applying one even coat to both the inside and the outside of the bowl. For project 4, I did find this cute little sign, and actually I probably could have put it right in my booth as is, but I decided it definitely needed a transformation. So initially I had a vision of I was going to paint this little black dress. So that's exactly what I broke out, and the minute I actually had about this much paint on it, I was like, oh, I think this is going to be too dark because I also want to stamp a saying on the front. And I was really envisioning using IOD's black ink. I could have used the white ink, but I really wanted to use the black. So I decided after I got this completely painted and dried, I was going to change the color. So I broke out Skeleton Key, and I was kind of going back and forth, hemming and hawing, what color to use. I was looking at the flowers in that transfer that I'm using in here, or it was going to use on this sign, and I finally settled on Skeleton Key. This is kind of a chameleon color. It changes colors based on lighting, what it's paired with, and I love it. So I used it in one of my last videos, and I decided I'm going to break it out again for this sign. So I'm applying just one coat of paint to this, and I am also going to wet distress it, take off a little bit of the Skeleton Key, and hopefully the black will pop through. Now that the sign is dry, I'm breaking out my favorite set of stamps called Typesetting, and you can see I have it in the IOD envelopes. If you haven't discovered these yet, honestly guys, these got me so organized. If you've been following me for a while, I've been on a mission to organize my life, and these have definitely helped me organize all my IOD stamps. And initially I bought them just for myself, but because they helped me out so much, I bought a ton more, and I have them available on my website. So hopefully you guys can be as organized as I feel. So once I use my set of stamps, it forces me to put those stamps right back in that envelope, and then I put them right back in the cabinet where I hold all my stamps. Now that I got off that soapbox, let's go ahead and get on with the sign. You can see that it is going to say shed here. We're making a she shed sign. The one reason I love the typesetting set of stamps is because it comes with capitals, lowercase, and numbers. So if I wanted to incorporate any of those with this, it would be perfect. What I've done here is I've laid out my letters. I took a chunk of thin mount and I pick up my letters, and it wasn't perfect, so I realign everything and then I pick it up. That's the nice thing about having the clear thin mount and having the letters that can just stick to it. If there's something that's not perfect, you can start over and no harm is done. So I lay down my thin mount, I pick up the letters, I flip it over, and then I'm using the IOD permanent ink, and I ink up my letters. And I just try to get a nice even coat, not too juicy, and just if it's too juicy, things can go awry. Just a nice even coat. I realign it up, lay it back down, and then I just lightly rub over all the letters to get a really nice impression. Pull it off, and there you have it. What I do then next is I'm just going to remove off the D, and then it's a she. Re-ink it again, line it up again on the other half of the sign, and do the exact same process. I don't have a lot of room to add a transfer to this, so I decided I wasn't going to use any of the big chunks of flowers. And because I'm using this on the guitar in tonight's live, some of these excess pieces that are sticking out, I thought would be perfect on this piece. So like I talked about earlier, you can cut about cut apart your transfers, use them any way you'd like, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to cut it apart and make it fit. And I am going to overlap some of the transfer on the letters, just make it look really natural, like it's always been there. Now I'm going to take a damp rag and I am just going to lightly rub on the skeleton key just to remove some of that and hopefully bring back some of the black underneath without activating the black paint as well and then going all the way down to that light color. And it works. I was very excited that I didn't bring it all the way back, and I just had a little bit of that black peeping through, and it was the perfect amount of distressing for the sign. Now that it's completely dry, I am going to seal it with DIY's Big Top, and I'm just applying one even coat of Big Top to the entire piece. Let it dry, and this sign is completely transformed, and I'm absolutely loving it. For my fifth and final project, I found these two picture frames, and anytime I find picture frames, I grab them. There are so many possibilities that you can do to upcycle them that they are a must-have buy. For these frames, I am using Summer Crush from DIY Paint, and I am applying just one even coat of the DIY paint to the frames. Going to let these dry, and then I'm going to come back and wet distress them. I have decided I am going to use this beautiful paper from Roycycled, and this orange will make the paper absolutely pop. You guys have seen me wet distress a ton, but basically, like I said in the past, I like to just rub over all the raised surfaces randomly here and there to just add a little bit of distress and bring back some of that natural wood. So here's the paper that I was talking about, guys, and you can see there's a lot of that Summer Crush orange in this paper, so it is absolutely going to be perfect for those frames. I have decided I am going to use this top image and just use a chunk of her face and a bit of her orange hair, and then this is the second one I am going to use, and I just think it's going to be really artsy looking, and I love it. I took a piece of white cardstock and I cut it out to the size of the actual frame. I'm then taking the frame and I'm going to line up what I want shown, and then I'm going to slide the cardstock in there and then take a pen and I am going to trace around the cardstock so I know what I need to cut out. And I'm going to do that with both of the images. Now that I have it traced out, I'm taking the scissors and I'm going to cut those chunks out. I am still going to keep that excess paper and use it in a future project. There's so much beautiful paper left that I haven't used that in the future, maybe I want to use a chunk of that in something else. So don't throw away your excess paper. Now I have them all lined up. I'm using, again, liquid patina from DIY Paint, and I'm going to do my starter strip, and I'm going to apply this decoupage paper on cardstock just like I would on any other item. While those are drying, I am going to seal the frames, and after those images are dry, I am going to put them in the frames, and then I am going to put a thicker backing behind those images to hold it in place. So what did you guys all think? What was your favorite item in today's video? I am leaning towards the She Shed sign. I love it. Honestly, I am slightly obsessed with this transfer from IOD. It was from this last release. And tonight, which is Monday, I am starting a transformation of a guitar. So I'm upcycling it. I've had this guitar, I actually have two guitars in my stash for roughly a year. I think I actually got them on one of my very first trips to the bin, and I have been wanting to upcycle these for quite some time. And I am going to be using that transfer. I'm gonna butcher the name, but maybe like Elysium or Elysium. I probably should go back and listen to the IOD sisters and figure out how they pronounced it. And then maybe I'll know. I'm sure in the comments, I will get a ton of people telling me how to properly pronounce it. But it is an amazing transfer. So I just took a few little bits and pieces from that transfer and I used it in the sign, and the rest is going to be on the couple of guitars. Well, for sure one guitar tonight. So tune in. I am going live here on Facebook tonight. Or I'm sorry, here on YouTube tonight and over on Facebook. So no matter where you're watching me on either of those platforms, I will be live at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So Friday's video, you guys, I have something in store for you. Actually, a group of us do. So stay tuned for the 8-ounce challenge. That's all I'm saying. There is going to be a group of DIY retailers that are doing the 8-ounce challenge with Debbie Beard. So watch for Friday's video and you'll see what I did with 8 ounces of paint. All right, guys. So you have yourselves a great week and we will see you Friday. Bye.